Hey y'all, so I'm not done yet talking about this book, and I know it's giving obsessed. I know you're tired of hearing me talk about this book, but but in my defense, I never did do an official pre-release thoughts video, so we get a post-release thoughts video instead. Just humor me, please. Please. If you've already read the book, do me a favor. Drop me a comment and let me know what you think. I already know you ready for part 2. I already know that part. Tell me something else, okay? So as you guys know, if you have watched any any more than 1 or 2 videos by me, you know that I am not a short-winded person. I am a long-winded person, and there were things that I wanted to talk about this book that would very much qualify as spoilers, and so I kind of tried to be a little vague every time I was talking about the book so that I kind of left something to the imagination or whatever you want to call it. But in this video, I am going to be talking spoilers. And so if you have not read the book yet, you may want to save this until after you have read the book. So with that said, I am going to dive right in and talk about one thing, which is the importance to me of properly representing Tati as a plus size woman. I know often in romance novels, there's this thing that I see about how we need more plus size rep, etc., etc., etc. And it's always been a little, I don't want to say strange because that's not quite what I mean, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, I've read plenty of plus size representation, especially in Black indie romance, but what I've come to realize through conversation with readers and other creators, other authors, is that it's the language around that makes it a bit ambiguous, for one, and for two, it really depends on what we're bringing into our reading with us. Because I can say one thing, and I do say one thing often, but what the reader hears, depending on what their life experience has been, what they deem desirable, etc., 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 they may hear something else. I don't typically write very small, very slim heroines. And when I do, I make a point of it because it's outside of the norm for me. But if what you view as the norm is different from what I view as the norm, if I'm not very specific about that body type, your norm or me not elaborating on it may mean something completely different than what I actually mean. And so I have books where the heroine is plus size, and I have made a point, later of saying it, of listing, these are all the books where the heroine is plus size, and people are surprised by that. And in my mind, I'm like, how are you surprised? Like I said, she was curvy, and I said, the hero might mention this about her body or that about her body. But as clear as it is for me, that doesn't make it ambiguous for you as the reader. And so through working through this project, I tried to be very, very specific about that instead of having that ambiguity. Like, no, Tati is a thick girl. Tati is a big girl. Like, we're not, and I'm not talking about slim, thick or whatever. Like, she's a big girl. And that's another reason why it was important to me to have a custom shoot for this project, because it's difficult finding models that are plus size women that they don't have on the picture doing something stupid or etc., etc., etc. Like, that was really, really important to me, and I wanted to make sure that that was reflected here. And in addition to that, because Tati is a plus size, dark-skinned Black woman who is in power in this club, in this organization that she's a part of, I struggled with what happens to her at about, the 40 or 50% mark of the book, because she deserves more than that. Like, she deserves to be able to live her life happily without being traumatized or brutalized or assaulted, etc., etc., etc. She absolutely deserves that. But we don't always get what we deserve. And this is a real thing. Sexual assault happens, rape happens, and it's almost like I would be doing a disservice to people who have that experience to pretend that it doesn't happen just because we're in a fictional novel. So what I try to do always when I'm engaging a subject of that, like that, a subject that can be potentially triggering, a subject that many women can relate to, I try my very, very best to make sure that, okay, this is not just a plot point. Like, we're going to get into it. Like, we're not going to sugarcoat it, but we're also not going to dig into these details just for the sake of entertainment, because the goal is to humanize the character. The goal is to feel with the character. The goal is to take you into their psyche, not necessarily into the moment with them, but take you into their psyche so that you understand where they're coming from, so that you empathize with the pain that they're feeling, and so that you don't get to look away from it either, because they can't. And it's a difficult balance to strike. It's a difficult balance to strike because I'm not trying to emotionally manipulate the reader. And I think that often when we as writers touch on these subjects, I think that there is absolutely that tendency there, because you want the writing to evoke emotion, but I think that the way to do that is to make it realistic and make it like, it's not even about like the gruesome details. It's about getting into the character's head. And that way you're not just creating a caricature of what someone has been through, of somebody's lived experience. You're stepping in it with them instead of just turning on your lens. Does that make sense? And not even just with Tati, with Onyx too. Like, we haven't gotten into it a lot quite yet, but the things that that man has been through as a child, as an extremely vulnerable person, it's rough, for lack of a better word. It's rough and it's traumatizing, and I see no need and feel no compulsion to dive into the details of that, to detail out that trauma, because it's almost exploitative, I feel. And I don't need to, like, even as the author, I don't need to do that in order for you to understand this man is hurt, this man is broken, and he has these things that he's trying to work through in order to not be that anymore. So, you know how at the very beginning of No Longer Afraid, there's this almost like a prologue, I guess, where it's a note from Gerard to Tati. It's a father to daughter. The note at the beginning of book 2 that is not named yet, it's going to be mother to son, and it's going to give some framework for kind of the real deal of what's happening here, and not to like, I really hate the term of hurt people, et cetera, because often I feel like it gives a pass to abusers, but sometimes it really is just the case, and sometimes there's really no other way to explain the way that Onyx's mother took she there was no one else that she could take it out on. He was the only available outlet for it, and it doesn't excuse it by any means, but it gives you context for what is going on. She's still trash though. She's still trash. But more than anything, I did not want this book to be surface level. I did, and that's what it was at first. That's why I had to take a step back. I'm not saying it was bad. I'm not saying it was bad, because my betas, you know, like it's not like no one had looked at it. It's not like I hadn't gotten any feedback. You know, my betas were in it with me, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They were enjoying it. You know, they had positive things to say, all of that. It was a me thing. I felt like I felt like I was doing the story, the characters, my craft. I felt like I was doing it all a disservice by not just going deeper. And it's not about, you know, piling on trauma for the sake of a juicy read or anything like that. It's about slowing down, giving you more insight into the characters, more insight into their history, more insight into other people in the motorcycle club. All of it, just kind of taking that step back and pouring more into it. Now, with that said, I don't know that No Longer Afraid is going to, I guess, check everybody's box as a motorcycle club novel, because it's, I don't know even really what a motorcycle club novel is. Like, I don't know what that's supposed to look like. I just know that here's this motorcycle club, and I want to write about the characters, the people who are contained in it. And so you have this trope of motorcycle club. You have this trope of enemies to lovers. You have these characters who were introduced in other projects. And I had the same problem with Deuces Wild, because Alicia, who is the main character in Deuces Wild, and she's also a very important character in No Longer Afraid, she was introduced in Ante Up. And you saw her a certain way because you were seeing her through someone else's eyes. Then once we got in her head, once we got to the real deal of what her story was, what her relationship with Cree looks like, I got complaints about, this isn't the story that I wanted for her. This isn't the story that I thought she would have. I thought her story was going to be this. I thought she was going to be more like that. Why is she so weak? Why is she so emotional? And I'm not going to front, that pisses me off. Like, that really irritates me, because I don't write in that way. Like, I don't take character archetypes, and I don't take tropes and say, well, this is what this is supposed to look like, so this is the only thing that can be. I'm not going to take this former assassin trope and box my mind and box my creativity and box my craft into, well, when you write a character like this is what it looks like. In the same way that with like the alpha male archetype or the sweet girl archetype or whatever, I don't give a shit. All I'm concerned with is writing the story that these specific characters gave to me. I don't care what everybody else did when they wrote this type of story. I don't care what somebody in some craft book who is supposed to be the expert on whatever said about how this is supposed to go or that's supposed to go. I literally do not care. But the frustration in that comes when even sometimes the reader engages the work in a way that makes it seem like you as the author are doing something wrong because what you did, the choices that you made for your characters, the choices that you made for your plot, the choices that you made for whatever don't fall in line with what everybody else was doing when they did this, or they don't fall in line with what they thought was going to happen, or it doesn't fall in line with, what happened in this other book. Like, I really need the work to be able to speak for itself. And I'm not even talking about like how, like, this book has a lot of subtext that if you haven't read other books in my catalog, you might miss the subtext of this thing or that thing, but you can still read it. Like, you'll still know what's going on. You just might have questions, about this or about that, which could be further provided in another book in my catalog. Like, that's something else. I'm talking about you meeting Blue and maybe one more time and seeing how he interacts with Nessa and wondering where that guy is when he's interacting with Tati. Why would he be the same with Tati, who is basically his sister, as he would be with a romantic partner? He won't, and he shouldn't be. He's not going to be that same, like, why would he be that same guy? Why would Alicia, who is a bodyguard, who is friends with Kingston, why would she bring that into a search for her missing sister? Like, why would she bring that energy? People are multifaceted, and so are characters, and so are stories. And so it's really my hope that everybody that does decide to pick this up is able to keep their mind open to that. It's not about what you read that was similar. It's not about what you watched that was similar. It's not about what you think is going to happen. This book and everybody else's book is just this book. Let it be that and judge it based on that and that alone. I just realized that this may make it sound like I got like a negative review or something. I have not looked at any reviews, so I don't know. I'm talking about like my hopes and wishes and my fears for this book, things that I didn't want to, I guess, talk about beforehand, but it's out in the world now. I can't do anything about it now because it's out there. But this is just me kind of not even venting, just, opening up about the things that have been happening in my head surrounding this book. Because there's been a lot happening in my head surrounding this book. And I know that part of my concern, part of my level of concern where this is involved is because it's this two-part thing that is something I've never, ever done before. At the time that I decided that I was going to split the books, I was under the impression that book one was going to be about 65,000 words, which is a full-length novel, but it's not a long novel. I ended up at almost 90,000 words for this first part, and I have another 90,000 words to write. I have not written a single word in this next part, and I'm going to tell you why. So in a few days, I am going to be having a laparoscopic medical procedure. I have underestimated the mental toll that it is taking on me. I thought that, okay, book one is finished. I'm going to be, I'm going to dive right into book two. I'm going to start writing and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. My head is fucked. Just honestly. My head is all jacked up. My mental state is all jacked up. And so I literally just have not been able to write. But don't worry. That's not me saying anything for you to get concerned about. But it is me saying, please be patient with me. I am still looking at a release date of March for book two. I fully believe that I'm going to get back into it. And I know, what I can do once I'm kind of past this. Just be easy with me. Just be easy with me, please. I do plan to get some writing in before I report for all of it. I actually plan to get some writing done today. If I can make it happen, if I can work it out, I'm going to get some writing done today. I've outlined a lot of this. I know a lot about this book, and I am excited to finish telling Onyx and Tati's story because I really love them together. And that was another difficulty here because, again, back to those archetypes, because you see, you meet Onyx through Tati's eyes one way. He's dangerous and he's sneaky and he's kind of, what is he doing here, etc., etc., etc. And it's not that those things aren't true. It's not that those things aren't true, but when you meet him through in his mind, and once Tati is able to kind of soften to him and understand that he's someone she can trust, Onyx is he's kind of goofy, like in a great way to me. He's kind of, goofy, and he's flirtatious, and but he will also literally kill you. Like, and I love that about him. But I was worried. I was worried about that goofiness that he has. I was worried about the flirtatiousness, the eating noodles with his fingers, and, him offering to be the little spoon and different things like that. I was worried about because, oh, well, he's a killer. He wouldn't be doing that. He wouldn't. I don't give a fuck. I have to let him be who he is. He's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. This book isn't going to be everybody's cup of tea. And I am okay with that because, you know what? I did my job. I did my job. All right, this is getting way longer than it was supposed to be. But I told y'all at the top that I am long-winded. So I don't know why you would have thought it was going to be anything else. But that is all I have for today. Because of, like I said, I will be on sick leave. This might be my last video for a little bit. But I don't know. I have been toying with the idea of vlogging a bit surrounding kind of what I have going on, because part of me is like, more women need to know about this. More women need to see someone that looks like them talking about this. But the other part of me is like, that ain't them folks' business. But I don't know. Like, I'm balancing it. I'm battling it in my head. We'll see. We'll see what wins. If you have already read No Longer Afraid, and I hope you have, if you've gotten here, I really hope you've already read the book. You should not have watched this. It may be fine. I don't know. It may be fine. We'll see. I'm sure you'll let me know. But in any case, please consider leaving a review either on my site, the CCJ Romance site, or Goodreads, or wherever, whatever your preferred place to leave reviews is. Right now, Goodreads and my site are the only places that you can. But the book is going to be available for pre-order on Amazon to be released whatever 2 weeks after, whatever the exact 2-week date. So I guess like March 1st or something like that, it'll be available on Amazon, and you'll be able to pre-order it up until then. I am going to go ahead and let this go, and I will see you guys later. Bye.